Summer is over in East Devon, the sand martins have left, and the winter migrants have come to the estuary. It seems hard to believe, but I really used to hate this time of year. I used to despise the shortening of the days and the coming of autumn, and particularly dreading the moment when those clocks went back. And because of all of that, I miss the beauty and the tranquility of this time of year. The incredible leaves, the wonderful harvest, all of those things that you can find and gather. Even as the weather stays mild and walks become a beautiful, fruitful time. The perfect time not just to gather things for the table, but also to gather inspiration for our own creative projects. As always, this video is brought to you by naturejournalingcircle.com, where you can learn the techniques that I explore in this video. Come and join me over there to kickstart your own autumnal creativity. In this video, I'm going fungi hunting, and I'm going to use the information that I gather out in the field to create some fungal artwork in my nature journal. Let's head out into the woods. Hi there, I'm in Hollyford Woods again. I did a whole series here several years ago. I think it was called like A Year in an Ancient Woodland or something like that. And I thought I'd just come out today and bring you all along with me and just talk a little bit about a couple of things that are going on right now. So in the last video, I spoke a bit about how I'm kind of trying to reignite the love of doing YouTube and of kind of being a bit more kind of creative and free and just enjoying things a little bit more than I have been. It's been a little bit like I've been struggling quite a lot with actually getting out and filming, because it feels, like I said before, it feels a little bit like I'm spending more of my time talking about nature journaling than actually doing it, and also kind of really just not getting out anywhere near enough. And my health has been suffering quite a bit for that. So I've been trying a few new things, and I'm going to, on this channel, I'm just going to kind of keep you up to date with how these changes are sort of bedding down into my life, and hopefully some of that stuff will be useful and inspiring for you too. Today I'm going out into the woods to look for fungi. I thought I'd do a little bit of nature journaling today about the fungi that I find. Hopefully I am going to find some, and then I'm going to kind of write some of that up into the Micro Seasons project. Now, regarding the Micro Seasons project, I've been working, some of you will know, I've been working on a project where I am splitting the year up into 72 micro seasons and trying to do a little painting to represent each of those micro seasons. And I am keeping up with actually getting out and spotting those things in nature that I am going to paint, but I'm very behind on the actual painting. And I think at this point what I'm going to do is just get on with that alongside just generally existing and just generally being a nature journaler and trying to make the improvements to my health and to the channel and, you know, everything. Now check this out. I love these kind of quiet little places where it's kind of just me here. Everything's so quiet and You know, I'm on my own. Now, when I go out in the woods looking for fungi as an artist, I'm taking a very different approach to my foraging than someone who is interested in eating the mushrooms would be. Firstly, I mainly take photographs rather than samples, for the most part. When I do take a sample, it is of a mushroom that there's plenty of, and I know that I can get away with taking it home without damaging the ecosystem. As I don't plan to eat it, I don't worry too much about whether or not it may be poisonous. But if something's very foul smelling or produces a lot of spores, I don't necessarily want it in the studio for long. The main thing I do is take my photographs first, but I don't look my fungi up on apps, not right away. The next thing I want to do is a bunch of sketches, right there and then, capturing some of the features of the mushroom that I notice. I often actually take a guidebook out into the field with me, and although I'm not very good at keys or the serious scientific style identification yet, I just flip through and see if I can find something similar to what I'm looking at. Once I have my photos, my sample if I've got one, and my sketches, then I might start think about using guidebooks back at home and an app too, to help me really finalise that identification. If you'd like to learn more about fungi ID, I have a whole class on that at naturejournalingcircle.com, which I'll link in the description. It gives you some of the basics to look for when you're doing your own outdoor sketching, and then launches into a lesson on graphite drawing of your specimens. There's a QR code on the screen if you'd like to find out more. So that was a lot of fun. I went and found quite a lot of fungi. It's funny, I kind of walked past loads, and I think that once you get your eye in, you kind of see them everywhere, but before you start, you kind of don't see them. So I was attracted to a whole load of the yellow ones on a log, and then as soon as I'd started journaling those ones, I noticed that there were some brown ones in the ground right next to me, and I went back out onto the path, and then suddenly it was almost as if they were absolutely everywhere. So I've got a sample of one. This is one that was kind of, there were several of them there. There was probably about 10 of them. And they were really interesting. I think they're one of the boletes, but I'm not sure which one. So I've got this to take back to the studio and do a painting of, and maybe do a little bit more work on. So it's been a really, really good walk out today. And it's kind of cleared my head around some of the stuff I was talking about earlier. So I think it was really worth doing. And I'll show you the nature journaling page that comes out at the end of it. That was the end of my day in the woods, but I wasn't done just yet, particularly on this really prolific year for fungi. I had to go out and find more. I had a tip off of a really great local site and headed out to find all of these wonderful fly agaric mushrooms, and sat nature journaling those for a little while, again capturing all of the reference material I need. I didn't take samples this time because I was going to be away for a few days afterwards, and I knew that they would putrefy in the studio if I didn't get to draw them quickly. But there were so many there, I had my big camera, and I was able to take some wonderful photographs and videos to use in my journaling later on. As you can see here, I always ask myself questions in my nature journal. What fungi is this? Well, it reminds me of such and such. Like for this brown one, it reminded me a little bit of the red fly agarics. So I'm always making comparisons to something that I know to help me make an identification later on. The autumn harvest is well underway, and as much as I'd like to spend a load of time out nature journaling, I've also got to try and keep my garden in order, as the apple of the tree is constantly dropping, and the leaves just seem to be in a continuous flurry of red, gold and brown. The first thing I needed to do today was just sort out my apples. I always use two buckets like this, one for the ones that I can't salvage, and another for the ones that I'm going to take inside. These ones all ended up in a dehydrator, and I now have kilner jars full of apple rings to use up over winter. Autumn jobs are never ending. The trees just seem to continually be dropping leaves. Before I get back to sketching in the studio, I've got to finish off some of these autumn chores. But there's something very wonderful about the chores that only come around at a certain time of year. They inspire me to continue to capture this wonderful season in my sketchbook and fully embrace what is happening at this time of year. I'm working on several pages and drawings inspired by the trips out to see the fungi. This one just needs one more layer. I've ordered some dry floristry moss to cover up some of the tissue paper green. These mushrooms that we saw on the log before, they'll eventually poke through all of that beautiful dry moss. I've used pressings here of cow parsley leaves to recreate the idea of the ferns around the log. Quite a lot of work, inspired by just a few hours out of doors. To finish off my fungi page, I need some more leaves. I waited for a dry day, when the leaves were dry on the pavements, and gathered up handfuls of leaves from different trees. Brought them all back home and put them on my desk. There's so much that you can do with all of these natural materials that nature provides for us. Why not think a little bit about how you might use these in your own work? Even if you're not so creative as to sit and paint, why not press some leaves in an old book, glue them down to some paper and make your own little journal or bookmark? There's so much you can do. You don't need to go quite as far as I've gone here. It took me so long to collate all of these little leaves. I was always working on filling up the gaps, tearing little bits of leaf and sticking them down, and then gluing materials like this fern over the top, trying to make the scene look a little more realistic. Another thing that's a lot of fun is to use a paper punch like this, and then you can cut leaves out from these dried leaves, making smaller shapes that you can use as a collage. They make fantastic natural confetti too, and you know that they're going to break down perfectly outside. One thing that doing this sort of work can do is to train your mind towards patience and focus. It takes a long time to produce work like this, and you must cultivate that patience as you go, both by being outside in the field, in nature, and by taking your time over slow, mindful activities like creating leaf litter in a sketchbook. I finished off these mushrooms using paper mache, just strips of paper mixed with glue and pushed together to make the 3D shapes of the scales on the top of these fungi. If you'd like to find out more about fungi identification using natural materials and nature journaling in general, you can find me at naturejournalingcircle.com. I offer monthly tutorials of an hour and a half each month, and by joining the membership, you gain access to all of the recordings of the tutorials and the courses that I've posted so far. Each course is also available to buy separately. This is footage from one of the tutorial classes where I show how to paint a background and then lay tissue paper over the top to create a misty scene. I'm always trying to inspire the use of natural materials like this, and every tutorial is a mini project that you can do to celebrate nature at whatever time of year you're at. I hope you'll consider checking out naturejournalingcircle.com. It really is the best way to support my work. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that autumn continues to find you well. I'll see you next time.